Well, buddy, welcome back. I've missed you. We had an episode without you, and then you and I took a 1 week break. So it's been a minute since we potted. How the hell are you?
I'm doing okay. I first want to note that the reason we did not pod last week had nothing to do with the fact that the Chiefs lost. We have been accused of being front runners on this podcast in the past, and we are, in a sense, front runners. The name of the show is It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. It's not very sunny after a loss, very frustrating game against the Eagles. Not going to talk about that. We just talked about it. Now we're going to put it out of the way. But I was in Mexico, and before I went to Mexico, my wife was in the ER, and then my dog was in the ER, and they're both fine. So that's good. Everybody's on the mend. And then I was watching the Eagles game from a resort in Mexico with a bunch of rowdy Birds fans, and I felt great after the first half of the game. Was imbibing, free food, free drinks, all inclusive, and then I left early because, with 2 minutes left, when the Eagles had the ball and they were running out of the clock. But yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good to be podcasting. What did I miss?
Oh, not much. Just life in Chiefs Kingdom continues to be always sunny.
Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. I'm Austin. Find me on Twitter /X at Real Bird Lawyer, on Blue Sky at Bird Law Expert. Here with me, as always, holding down the fort in my absence a couple weeks ago with our guy Dan Harms. My co-host Taylor at Taylor_Witt on Twitter /X, on Blue Sky at Taylor and Witt. What's going on?
Just trying to keep up with all of our social media stuff.
Oh my God,
it's crazy. Eventually,
it's too much.
Once Elon gets kicked off of Twitter for being a fuckhead, then we're gonna have to go somewhere else. But for now, we've been talking about the downfall of Twitter now for however long it's been since he's bought it. But it is spiraling down. It's getting worse continually. So
he told the advertisers that left to fuck off. Nobody wants to advertise on the website because it's filled with Nazis and literal Nazis and terrorists and things of that nature. And he's in a bad place. But until that collapses, you can find us there. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, still going strong, unlike the Bird app. If you missed out on preseason best ball, you can still draft. Use our promo code SUNNY, SUNNY. And speaking of fantasy, we have not gotten caught up on the listener leagues in a couple of weeks due to, the whole situation with us not potting. So let's get everybody caught up. First, we've got the redraft league, the listener redraft league, which we are not in, but we are lording over. And since our last update, Z-Man, a.k.a. Catch Me Riding Purdy, pretty good team name.
Very good. Yeah.
Has rocketed up the standings. He has a 3-game win streak going. He's 8-4, tied with Volk 50 atop the league. Meanwhile, our rookie fantasy manager, German Chief, has made a huge comeback. We shouted him out early in the year. He started off 3-0. He was at the top of the league. And then he experienced, as all fantasy owners experience, the inevitable pain and frustration of playing fantasy football. He lost Nick Chubb for the season. He lost Aaron Jones for several weeks for a hamstring injury. He was 3-0. He fell to 4-5. Had a little 1-5 stretch in there. He is back to 7-5. He's on a 3-game winning streak, and he's the highest scoring team in the league. So huge shout out to German Chief. Very well played by him.
Yep.
Incredible performance. What a comeback. In the Listener Dynasty League, I am looking to clinch a first round bye with my league best 9-3 record. I will say I was a little bit blindsided, a little bit thunderstruck by the fact that Jonathan Taylor is going to probably miss the rest of the fantasy season with a thumb injury. And they announced it in the middle of the week, everything's fine, everything's good. We think that we've made it through the week without any serious injuries. And then on Wednesday, it's oh, by the way, Jonathan Taylor needs surgery on his thumb and he's going to miss a month.
By the way, the only player on our team that anyone cares about is going to be out for a while. Yeah. Not kind of the fantasy football performers there.
No, not at all. But me.
What about
you're doing okay? You're 5-7.
I'm floating.
Yeah, you're floating along. You had a monster 180 burger last week.
I did.
Congrats to you.
I did.
An incredible performance. Probably not repeatable, but you are up to third in points. So despite your 5-7 record, you are pretty much locked into a wild card spot. Should feel good about that.
Yeah, I'm all right. I've got Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard were two running backs that I felt pretty good about going into the start of the year, and they have both been pretty meh. And then I've got George Pickens and freaking idiot Devontae Adams. I mean, between the two of them,
Sure.
I drafted some guys that I felt pretty good about, and all of them have sucked. So I'm lucky to be in third place in scoring, and cannot wait for my painful playoff exit.
You know what you will not be painfully doing, though, is exiting the league, because as long as you make it into the playoffs, you're not getting relegated. And so you are in good shape. You're third in points, our top two highest point scoring teams that don't have the record to get in, make it in as wild cards. You are basically locked into a wild card spot. You just got to maintain. And I am fifth in points, so I would also be a wild card spot if I somehow tumbled out of the top four in the standings. But since I am tied for the best record in the league, I just need like one more win. I'll lock it up. We will both avoid any possibility of relegation in our first year in the league, which would be great. Meanwhile, in the Cutthroat League, we're down to 5, which is crazy. Since the last update, we lost Star-Lord. We lost Tojo, who was second or third for to last almost every single week. And the man survived for more than half a season. Incredible accomplishment by him, but he was finally laid to rest. And Roscoe, the highest scoring team in the league, second time we've lost the team in first place in scoring so far this season. He is gone. So the final 5, Casey Puerto Rican with McPoyle's Bloodline, Chief Justin O with Team Clown Baby, Dr. Weiss leading Peppa Jack's Best Hose, Volk 50's Tater Thoughts. He's doing well both in our Cutthroat League and in the Redraft League, where he is tied for the best record. And me, my team is nameless because I am not superstitious, but strongly believe that naming your Cutthroat team is bad luck. And I believe that because I saw it happen to you. You named your team, and then the very next week you were eliminated. So
I named my team brilliantly after all Taylor Swift song titles, and felt really, really, really good about that. And even early on, someone was like, "Oh, Taylor, you don't have a name," and I go, "No. You got to wait till at least week 6." That's what I said early in week 1. I was like, I'm not going to do it yet. And then week 6, I named my team. That week, I got cut. So I hear you. We are, of course, men of science. We don't believe in jinxes, but at the same time, don't jinx yourself. So that's legit. Cutthroat's been a lot of fun. Definitely a format that I'm excited that we got to get 16 people in, 14 including ourselves, and just a lot of chaos. You never know if that week's going to be your week. You have been fortunate enough so far to last 10 cuts, 11 cuts, and we'll see how it goes over the remaining 4 weeks.
I mean, I feel good about it, but you just never know. One bad week is all it takes, and it's just going to get more stressful and more awful from here. We had a great show for you guys. Tight show today. We're going to hit the news. We're going to recap Chiefs Raiders, and we're going to preview Chiefs at Packers. So let's hit. Let's start off with the injury news. Nick Bolton, designated to return from the injured reserve. His 21-day practice window has been activated, which means the Chiefs will have 21 days from yesterday in order to bring him back off of IR and onto the active roster. Doesn't sound like he's going to play this week based on kind of what we're hearing, but he is out there getting some work as of yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday, so he did start working on Wednesday. We've got 3 weeks. We weren't really expecting him back until we talked about the last game or 2 of the regular season. And so if he uses up all 3 of those weeks, then that's kind of the timetable that we're looking at. But it seems like he's maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, because it sounds like we might be able to see him in, maybe 2 weeks instead of 3.
Yeah. I mean, if he's practicing, they're at least feeling fine about him kind of getting out there and mixing it up. So, I mean, certainly limited participant in practice this week has been a great sign for a guy that, we talked about when he got injured, that if there was one group that could afford it, it was the linebackers. We felt great about the linebacker depth, still do on this team. They've been playing good ball all year long. But at the same time, I mean, getting a guy like Nick Bolton back in the mix, calling the plays, we know that he was the defensive quarterback, so to speak. I mean, that's going to be nothing but good news for a defense that's already, in goblin mode. Like, they've been just eating everybody up. So welcome back as soon as you can and are able to, Nick Bolton.
Since we last potted a couple weeks ago, McCole Hardman placed on injured reserve. That was actually earlier this week with an ankle and hip injury. So he's got a couple of injuries that are causing him some discomfort. He is on the injured reserve. So we're going to see him, if we see him at all, probably the last week of the regular season or the first week of the playoffs. And, it's a bummer. Obviously, he was having, for him, a career year last year with the Chiefs before essentially a season-ending injury. He was able to come back for a couple of plays in the AFC Championship game and made a big third down clutch catch in that game before he was knocked back out. You hate to see it. I did see some pushback that oh, haha, the Chiefs are going to lose their 5th-round comp pick, and this is all that McCole has done for them. Who gives a shit? It's a 5th-round pick. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a bummer to lose a guy who has had some trouble staying healthy in his last 2 trips with the Chiefs. And, when healthy, we saw it last year, he can be a weapon for this team.
Absolutely. And, seems like a good kid, seems like he likes the team and the kingdom. And I don't know. I've felt the ire of being a McCole Hardman apologist for a couple years now. And sure. I just feel like he, of course, hasn't gotten a fair shake. Of course, he's also been frustrating as hell. I've yelled at him as much as I've yelled at anybody at watching Chiefs games. But I do think that it's undoubtedly a blow to put him on IR. And he did tweet that I'm coming back in the regular season. He said that the day they put him on IR. I don't know if that just means that, he's trying to be optimistic, or if he's yeah, it's probably a 2-week injury, but they just IR'd me because they can afford to or whatever. But either way, he didn't seem like he was down in the dumps about the injury, which is great. Hard to lose your season 2 years in a row and stay chipper. So, just hope that he can come in and be a net positive. That's what we need. We need just more good than bad. He started off with the big kick return and we were all fired up. Then, of course, he had the fumble at Denver. So we'll just kind of see how the rest of his season shakes out.
In other injury news, Nick Bolton was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. He obviously is on our IR and working his way back from that wrist injury. The only other player who was a limited participant was Jerick McKinnon, who had that groin injury. It kept him out last week. He did not practice on Wednesday, but he did get in a limited practice on Thursday. You have to think that they're going to be pretty conservative with him. This is around the time of year when we would start to see potentially an uptick in Jerick McKinnon touches because he's in his 30s and the Chiefs definitely have been load managing him the last couple of years, but he was there, as as a Jerick McKinnon fantasy owner the last couple of years.
Yes.
He showed up down the stretch the last couple of seasons and really was the Chiefs' primary running back, certainly 2 seasons ago, and, kind of a 1-2 punch with Pacheco down the stretch at the end of last year. So whether he'll play this week against Green Bay remains to be seen. Limited participation on Thursday, but you have to think that they will give him time to get fully healthy because I would expect him to play an expanded role in the playoffs.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Jet McKinnon for being an absolute fantasy MVP. He was the RB2 over the final 6 weeks of the season last year when I absolutely needed every point out of him on my way to a Dynasty Super Bowl. So big fan of that guy, always will be. And of course, has scored some big touchdowns for the Chiefs, had the run down to the 1-yard line in the Super Bowl that he, had some very big moments for a guy that really hasn't had, I don't know where he would rank on the Chiefs all-time touch list, but it's not very high, but yet at the same time, we're going to remember a lot about McKinnon's contributions. Of course, the ridiculous flip at Denver that you and I were in attendance for.
Yes.
Just some fun moments. So hopefully they could have put injury old on the injury report if they really wanted to. And this is just they're just easing him into stuff. I hope he's not banged up right now because I think the Chiefs are going to need him as well as Pacheco's playing right now. That counterpunch that they want at running back, if it's not McKinnon, I don't really think they have it.
Sure. You want somebody that's going to be, able to do work in pass pro, which he does a great job at, and also a guy that can be a threat in the receiving game. They've gotten Pacheco worked in more there, but he definitely can be a factor there. Get healthy soon, Jet. In other news, Andy Reid wins his 125th regular season game as coach of the Chiefs. That is a franchise record. He passes Hank Stram's 124. He is the winningest coach in franchise history. He is the only coach in the NFL to hold that record, most wins in franchise history for 2 different teams. He obviously won 130 games, regular season games with Philly. So if Kansas City wins out, he can actually pass his Philly win total this year. I mean, which is crazy.
14 years in Philly, and this would be 11 in Kansas City. So
it's just crazy. I mean, like, after the first Super Bowl, we had this conversation about, at what point does Andy Reid, what point does he go down in history as coach of the Chiefs and not as coach of the Eagles? Because obviously 14 years in Philly, 4 NFC championship games, a Super Bowl appearance, you lost 3 of those championship games, lost the Super Bowl, but a guy that, was an iconic Eagles coach and still has his fingerprints all over that franchise. Jason Kelce and Brandon Graham and all those guys that played for him that are still making an impact in the league. But I mean, first Super Bowl, that was a conversation. Second Super Bowl, it's like, okay, he's the Chiefs coach now. It's crazy that he's going to potentially surpass his Philly win total here by the end of the season if the Chiefs win out. And, if we're counting playoff wins, he had 10 in Philly and he already has 12 in Kansas City. So, I mean, if we're counting total wins, including the playoffs, he could pass his Philly total by the end of the month.
Yeah, he's a machine. I think if you ask anybody, non-Philly fans or Kansas City fans, just the other 30 franchises, like, which team do you think of or associate Andy Reid with? They're all going to say the Chiefs by now, with the 2 rings, with Patrick Mahomes, with the success, with all the stuff that, I mean, he's clearly had a better run with the Chiefs, much better.
Yes,
I mean, they have 5 straight AFC championships, all the fun stuff that we've gone through, fortunately, since his arrival. I mean, his career completely, catapulted into a new stratosphere when he came here. But if you were to ask Philly fans in 20 years or whatever, assuming they don't have some other coach that, assuming Nick Sirianni's not still coaching there or whatever, what coach do you think of as like the number 1 coach of the Eagles? Like, they're all going to say Andy Reid, right? Like there's a reason that he's the only guy who has won the most with 2 franchises. He's the only guy that's going to be mentioned with 2 people saying, like, who's the guy you think of on your team as a coach. Yeah, right. It's just, it's remarkable. And it's such a testament to how good he is as a coach, because anybody can sit in one place for 20 years with an elite defense and with great luck and with cheating and with all this stuff and become good. But, like, I'm just naming, that was just a random,
NPC
not coach, names. Not anyone,
not anybody specific.
No. But at the same time, what he's done has over between Philly and Kansas City just cements that he's the reason. He's the one that gets it done. I just love Big Red so much.
Yeah. Speaking of record-breaking, franchise-defining icons of the game, Travis Kelce reaches 11,000 receiving yards. He obviously made light of this on New Heights this week. Are we going to sit down and, applaud Travis Kelce every time he hits a round number, which is fair. He is the fastest tight end to total 11,000 receiving yards in NFL history. He did it in, I think, 168 games, I want to say. There's only 3 other tight ends that have 11,000 plus receiving yards in the NFL in history. Antonio Gates is one, Jason Witten, and of course, Chiefs legend Tony Gonzalez, who now, as a Chief, Travis passed him a couple of weeks ago for the franchise record, the all-time leading receiver for the Chiefs, but he now is the 4th tight end all-time to hit 11,000 receiving yards. He is 39th all-time in receiving yards, and that's regular season only. So if you look at postseason receiving yards, we talked about this last year, but when I looked this up in preparation for the podcast, I was still surprised, even though I knew this fact, that he's second all-time in postseason receiving yards in NFL history. Which
Julian
is crazy.
Edelman, right?
Yeah,
is that
behind Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice,
literally the greatest receiver of all time. He passed Gronk.
Yeah.
He passed Edelman. He's second all-time to Jerry Rice.
Rice.
So
good company.
If you count postseason receiving yards in this total, he's actually already passed Antonio Gates, because Antonio Gates, he only had 540 postseason receiving yards. Travis Kelce has 1,548 postseason receiving yards in his career. That is more than Antonio Gates, Jason Witten, and Tony Gonzalez combined.
Wow.
In their entire careers. 3 guys that hit 11,000 plus receiving yards in their careers, and Witten had over 13,000. Tony went over 15,000 in the regular season. And those guys combined have less than 1,300 postseason receiving yards. Travis has over 1,500. I mean, like, what can you say about the guy? He is a franchise-defining, record-breaking icon of the game.
He is. And he's got the rings now too, which the other guys only wish that they could have accomplished that.
I mean, none of those guys has a ring. So
no. And I mean, and not only, he doesn't just have a ring because he was on the team. Right. There are some guys, lots of guys, most guys get rings because they're on the team. And Travis Kelce's catching the first Super Bowl touchdown in both games, I believe. Well, Pat ran one in, but he had he had the receiving touchdown in 54 on the comeback, and then of course the first receiving touchdown of the game against Philly. So I mean, he is just as important to the team as any tight end's ever been, even if he didn't have the numbers. Even if he was sitting here at like third, he's got the numbers now, but like just the impact that he's had has been so much greater. Every time people talk about him being the all-time great tight end, it's not just box score compiling, which he's great at, which he's obviously the 1,000-yard seasons, all this stuff. But it's the fact that no defenses really ever in the history of the game before Travis Kelce have had to focus on a tight end number one. Like, they've talked about tight ends and they've been hard matchups and like, but like Gronk wasn't the plan 1A when the Patriots were playing. And Tony Gonzalez, although he was prolific and everything, I mean, that was a run game and lines and all that. It just, Travis it commands all the attention because he is able to still accomplish what he does despite the game plans being set up to stop him. He's incredible.
Right. He's on pace, by the way, for around 1,100 yards again this season, despite missing a game. So it'll
despite
another...
a down,
right.
I mean, he's had a couple games this year where he's been down.
Yep. I mean, health permitting, he will cross that threshold again and continue to add to his own record-breaking performance. He's unbelievable. Let's turn to recapping Chiefs' victory, thank God, over the Las Vegas Raiders. Chiefs 31, Raiders 17. Let's just get this out of the way. I know we're going to talk about it in the Chiefs system, but just general thoughts about this game. Walk me through your game watching experience briefly here.
Sure. I mean, it's a Raiders game, and historically for us, that has come with a lot of, ointments to our issues. That's been get right game. That's been, I mean, the Raiders, despite being a heated rivalry and all this stuff, has always come at the right time, the perfect time. As soon as the Chiefs need just to pick me up, you guys still got it, attaboy, they play the Raiders and they kick their ass. It's happened for the last 10 years at least, and it's going to probably continue to happen according to what's going on in Vegas for a long time to come. But so my initial thought was that I was not nervous before the game started. I was not like, oh, I wonder if we're going to beat the Raiders. It was just kind of a like calming, like, thank God the Chiefs don't have to play a really good team in prime time right now or whatever. They can just play the Raiders and get stuff done. So early, I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and so was I. And then the first 3 drives of the game, 2 by them, 1 by us, happened. And the Chiefs were down 14-0. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Chiefs system. I think we both turned this game off for periods in the second quarter.
Yeah.
I turned it off for about 2.5 minutes. And then I checked the score and saw that we'd gotten the ball back and it was 14-0. And, we had the ball at midfield, and then I turned it back on and Chiefs turned this game around, but frustrating game in some ways. We'll get to that when we get to the Chiefs system, but it is a dub for the Chiefs. They do get things turned around, and a good victory back in the dub column. Let's talk about the numbers, the figures. These usually are focused on the game at hand, but I saw this pop across my timeline today, and we have to give it some attention, even though it doesn't directly involve the game that was just played, which of course was played in Las Vegas in a dome. But Tom Bliss at Data with Bliss on X came out with some really interesting numbers. Of course, this was motivated. He was motivated to dive into this because Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, is still talking about the Chiefs. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
he's talking about he's the side chick. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. He was talking about when MVS dropped the ball against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, how hard it is to track the ball under the lights at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And Tom Bliss went and pulled drop rates. So this is drop rates by starting time in team stadium 2016 to 2023 through week 12, current stadiums only. There is one stadium that has a drop rate in the stadium in any time slot over 10%, and that is Arrowhead Stadium at night. Arrowhead Stadium at night has a drop rate of about 10.5%. The next highest is Baltimore in the late afternoon slot, and that's at about 9.33%. There's no other stadium that's even over 9%. So Arrowhead at night is a huge outlier. And Mr. Bliss, being the data scientist that he is, went and broke this down. Kansas City receivers, going back to 2016, which was Tyreek Hill's rookie year. I mean, we're going way back here.
Yeah.
2016, Jeremy Maclin was a Chief, 2016 through 2023, week 12. These are Kansas City receivers. At home, at Arrowhead, in the early afternoon slot, they have a 6.7 drop rate, 6.7% drop rate. In the late afternoon slot, a 6.6% drop rate. And at night, a 9.9% drop rate, okay? And if we look at away, early afternoon at 6.8%, late afternoon at 6.1%, night at 6.4%. So
all right around it themselves, other than
exactly.
Arrowhead at night.
All pretty steady, except Arrowhead at night, which is a huge outlier. And that is not unique to the Chiefs wide receivers. If you look at opposing team receivers playing at Arrowhead, in the early afternoon, it's at 6.3% drop rate. Late afternoon, it's 6.9%. At night, it's 10.8%. So I wanted to dismiss this as Tyreek Hill talking and being a bozo. And obviously the timing of his tweet, right after MVS drops what would have been a game-winning touchdown potentially, was dubious. But the data seems to support his contention that there's something weird about the lights at Arrowhead at night that makes it hard to see the ball.
Yeah, I was shocked that. So on one hand, I'm not shocked that maybe it's harder at night, but I'm shocked that it's not harder at night everywhere. So if we had seen day and afternoon games at 6 and night all over the NFL, I would have been like, yeah, that tracks. It's, and maybe with night games, you also have some added pressure of it being a primetime game, whatever the case may be, colder, something. But the fact that Arrowhead at night is the outlier and every other stadium on this graph is pretty well. I mean, the signal there it's pretty much identical.
The second lowest night percentage is Washington, and it's at 8.5%, and Arrowhead is 10.5%.
And what's funny about Washington is that they're also a red team, or a dark red color scheme. And so some people that were just throwing out theories that had, there's no science behind this yet, but the fact that the football is like a brown pigskin color, and the fact that with the way that the Arrowhead Stadium, especially because Arrowhead has a ton of home red fans, and Washington would be similar there, that there's just a perfect storm of lights and the ball blending in with a lot of background reddish brownish colors that could very well contribute to this. Now, there are other red teams. There's the Cardinals, and bunch of teams around the NFL that have some similar colors to this. So I don't know. It's got to be the lights partially. They've got to also play a factor here. The where they're situated, how bright they are, the type of bulbs, whatever. I don't know, all kinds of science stuff. But there's something here. I don't know what it is, but the data is incontrovertible at this point. You can't say that this is not happening. It's just crazy.
I have some good news. Eric Eager, formerly at PFF, now from Consumer Sports, did point out the Chiefs are playing the AFC Championship game this year in the early time slot.
Sweet. All right. Well, that's good.
It's not going to be at night. So there is a little bit of good news there. But yeah, it's something we got to get the Clarks on this in the offseason because this is not acceptable, especially when you've got people out dropping touchdowns in primetime. If you think about it, the two games that the Chiefs have struggled with drops the most at home, game one, Thursday night in primetime, and then Monday Night Football against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Those were the two games where they really had problems with the dropsies. Both of those at home, both of those at night. So
they did.
Yep.
That's funny.
It's interesting. You pulled a stat here about the schedule. Hit me.
Was just thinking about how hard the Chiefs season's been so far compared to how hard it is moving
always,
forward.
it's always
yes,
so hard.
you're the champs and
We have a
playing a
hard
first place schedule and all that. But the Chiefs have played so far, confirmed by numbers, the second hardest schedule in the NFL. The Chiefs' opponents were a combined 69 wins, 55 losses, which is a half game behind Pittsburgh's opponent record of 69 and 54 for the hardest schedule in the NFL. So 14 games over 500 for Chiefs opponents so far through 12 weeks. Pretty tough sledding. A lot of opponents that have really put together pretty good seasons. Obviously, Miami and Jacksonville are two big highlights there, but even the loss to Philly and Detroit, I mean, the two losses they've had have been to great opponents, but there is hope. The remaining schedule for the Chiefs ranks 29th in the NFL at 27 and 41 combined. And that 29th ranking is the easiest ranking in the AFC remaining of all the opponents. And, we've kind of looked at that already, just looking forward to kind of how the Chiefs end the season and what they're looking at and all that. But just for those of you not keeping track at home, the Chiefs will play the Packers, Bills, which is hilarious that's now a pretty easy opponent record-wise. But then Patriots, Raiders again, Bengals, another really surprising one that's going to turn out to be a lot easier than we thought, and Chargers. And the Chargers, I mean, so if we had said that the Bills, Bengals, and Chargers are three reasons why the Chiefs have an easy schedule down the stretch, if we had said that at the beginning of the season, nobody would have believed anybody. But that's the reality. Those three teams are on tilt. They are absolutely just running on fumes if they're not completely eliminated like the Bengals already are. Just crazy scenario.
Hashtag blessed. Yes. One final one here from friend of the show, Randy Gisarelli. He tweets, a tale of 2 second-round picks after the Raiders game. Rashee Rice has more career receiving yards, 527, than Sky Moore, 489. Spoiler alert, we will talk about that in the next segment. But first, we got to get to the Chiefs system. Lay it on me.
The Chiefs system. So, as you all know, this is the system that the Chiefs employ when they win games. It is tried and true. It never fails. It's based off of the Dennis system, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which also never fails. It starts with C, create drama. 14-0. Hello. The Raiders went 9 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown on their first possession. The Raiders then forced a quick 3 plays, 0-yard punt from the Chiefs, and then went another 14 plays, 69 yards, but they did miss a short field goal. They gave the Chiefs a little bit of reprieve there, but then they forced the Chiefs to go just 4 plays and 13 yards. So barely doing anything on offense. The Chiefs punted it back, capped the early drama with a long, excruciating 63-yard touchdown run by the Raiders' Josh Jacobs to make this game 14-0 bad guys early on. I mean, that's the classic Chiefs create drama. We've kind of forced in some create drama over the years, not really forced, but had to really squint to see it. This is the reason that the Chiefs system was created in the first place was being down 14-0 to the Raiders. This is as C as it gets.
Yes, this is C as in canon, as in a canonical Chiefs system performance. I think you undersold it by saying that the first drive went for no yards. It actually went for negative yards. The first play of the game went for an 11-yard loss.
Yeah.
And then there was an incompletion, and then they got 11 yards back. They were punting on 4th and 10. It was a net of 0 yards, but they started with a negative 11-yard gain after the Raiders had just marched down and scored a touchdown on them. And listen, I know the first half offense has been pretty good. Second in EPA per play going into this game, and maybe back to number 1 now because the Chiefs did end up with a pretty good first half offensive performance. But, I mean, listen, you just came off of getting shut out in the second half for the 3rd week in a row. And then that was the very last time we saw you play football. And then to not score on the first couple of drives of the game while the Raiders ram it down your throats and go up 14-0 with Aiden O'Connell at the helm. It was not a good feeling. It was very, very dramatic. And as we mentioned previously, it was true dramatic for us. We had to take a little break, take a little walk outside for a little bit of fresh air. Very dramatic.
Yeah, you and I don't mince words. We don't beat around the bush when we're talking to each other on game day about how we're feeling and what's going on. And I have long been a proponent that if sports is making you miserable, it's okay to unplug and to walk away
100%.
and to turn a game off. And you are not a bad fan. You are
Say
not
it louder for the people in the back.
Right. Like, I live and die Chiefs football. I think the more that you know, the more comfortable you are with your own fandom, the more comfortable you are turning a game off or leaving a game early or doing some type of thing that, you might be embarrassed to tell the masses, but that's because the masses don't get it. That's because they don't react in a sound, calm, rational way, which is that I don't want to be here. I don't want to see this. So I'm not going to. I am the master of my own universe. So that's just my soapbox on why it's okay to turn a game off if it's making you fucking miserable. So we did, but of course, as you and I are want to do, just turning the game off is not like, oh, no, I'm just going to go about my day and not pay attention to what's going on in the Chiefs game. No, it's just a mental break. It's an unplugging. And yes, we still have the game cast up. Yes, we still know what's happening in the game. And
we're still texting each other.
We're still texting each other. Yeah. My brother's still texting me about what's going on. I'm still like, I'm locked in, I'm not like, but the TV's just not playing the game, which is fine. So all that being said, I now, of course, know everything that happened. I've caught up. We're back to, recapping the game, knowing every play. Don't pretend like we don't know ball. We absolutely know ball. So handling adversity. Can I just put the rest of the game here? I can't. I mean, we could, but
no. We have to get the other letters and stuff. But
we will start with the responding drive that the Chiefs had to that Jacobs long run. So at this point, the Chiefs have heard that Austin and Taylor have shut the game off. They've heard that things are going bad. So it was 223 total yards for Las Vegas, 13 for KC after that. It was 3 drives to 2, but it was 3 long drives for the Raiders.
There's a reason the TV was turned off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the Raiders, and they suck. So the Chiefs go on a 12-play, 71-yard, 6-minute counterpunch that includes a 3rd and 8 pass to Rashee Rice for 10 yards and a 3rd and goal plunge by Isaiah Pacheco of 1 yard to score the first touchdown of the game for the Chiefs. And I think here, the handling adversity, I'll start with the fact that, they didn't crumble. They just got out there and got back on the horse, but also love the 3rd and 1 dive by Pacheco at the goal line. Just need more of that. We've been saying it because not only have we been saying it because we knew it would work, we've been saying it because it has been working. It's been, the last 5-6 games or whatever, the Chiefs have gotten into 3rd and short situations and we've all been tweeting like, oh, can't wait to see what cute shit they pull off here for nothing. And then they run it for 1 or 2 yards and it converts and moves the chains. And we're like, okay, that's what we've been asking for the whole time. And so that was a really good job of handling adversity by the Chiefs and countering and making it 14-7 Raiders early in the second quarter.
Yeah. And, we had a big 3rd and 8 conversion by Rashee Rice in this situation where, like, it's 3rd and 8 on the Raiders 16. Mm-hmm. And listen, it's the early in the second quarter. So if they don't pick that up, they'd probably kick a field goal, which I would have hated.
14-3. Fucking kill me.
Rashee Rice picks it up, 10-yard gain on 3rd and 8. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets the ball down to the 1 on 1st and goal from the 6. And then they, for some reason, they're like, that was one of your best runs of the year. 5 yards from you, Clyde. Amazing performance. Give it right back to him, and of course he immediately gets stuffed. And like you said, bringing in Isaiah Pacheco on 3rd and goal from the 1 and just running the ball up the middle for a touchdown, it's as easy as it gets. It doesn't matter if it's at the goal line, if it's at midfield, if it's in your own territory, if it's 3rd and short, that play should work most of the time. It's not the tush push. You're not going to have a 90% conversion rate with that, but it should work most of the time. And if teams know that you have the ability and the wherewithal, the desire to run the ball on 3rd and 1, they have to respond accordingly. And then do some cute stuff every once in a while. Right. But like, establish the run.
Well, we saw when was it what was the game where the middle of the field was completely open on a short yardage? Was it the Eagles or maybe the one before that? I think it was maybe Miami. I think it was. Yeah. And they didn't even plug the A gap at all. They knew no matter what the Chiefs do here, it is not just to run the ball right up the middle.
Right.
And of course the Chiefs then dropped back and tried to throw the ball and it didn't work. And so, like, you're right. When you give the defenses the knowledge that you're going to do anything here, that you could run it, you could pass it, you could, you're probably going to run, but at the moment they stack that box, now Andy starts licking his chops, because that's how Andy's gotten success in those types of plays in his career, is that most people treat most offenses like normal cookie cutter offenses most of the time. And so you get in a short yardage situation, everybody goes jumbo. Now Andy can start to throw the curveball at you. But like the Chiefs threw too many curveballs, and then hitters started sitting on the curveball, and they needed to go back to the fastball. They finally did. Really, really happy about that. So that was inspiring hope. That was handling adversity. And then now to inspire hope, the I in the Chiefs system. They're still down 7, but at this point they're back in the game. They're, they've gotten the ball back after they scored the touchdown. And to inspire hope, what they need here is a defensive stop, since they hadn't had one yet. And of course, the Chiefs did what they've been doing all year. Quick 5-play, 13-yard drive by the Raiders that ended with a punt back to the Chiefs, with still enough time in the first half, 3:37, to actually be able to do something with the ball if the Chiefs so chose. That was a big, big, big hope-inspiring stop, because if they were going to trade touchdowns, if you spot the other team 14 and then trade touchdowns, guess what? Spoiler alert, you're not going to win that game.
You're not going to win.
Math don't math there. But if you can start to string a couple stops together and then keep the offensive momentum going on your end, next thing you know, you're maybe on the road to a 2-touchdown win. We'll see if that is actually what the Chiefs end up doing. But very, very inspiring to see the Chiefs go out there after their touchdown and immediately get a stop.
Yeah, because the defense in this game started going 0 for 5 on third down. The Raiders converted 5 for 5 on third down on the first 3 drives of the game. And then the Chiefs get them into a 3rd and 10. And the broadcast said that the Chiefs had not converted, or not allowed an opponent to convert on 3rd and 10 plus in something like 40 plus
it was late 20s when they started doing it, and then they did it a couple times, and it ended up at 30, I believe, at the end of the broadcast.
The Chiefs did get the stop on this drive, get the ball back, and that's when I turned my TV back on. So what did we do to engage physically?
Engage physically. If I told you that the offense engaged physically, you would probably have one player in mind, one skill player that did that engaging. And you would be correct. It would be Isaiah Pacheco. This vintage Chiefs drive with 3:37 left in the first half started out with a dump off to Pop for 10 yards, immediate first down. You kind of get the juices going on if you're going to do a 2-minute drive and you start off with an incomplete or run stuff or something, everyone's immediately tight butthole. Everybody's trying to oh my God, how are we going to, but the moment you start these off with a quick first down, then it's like, all right, we're going to go, keep punching them. And so Pacheco started that. Rashee Rice picks up 9 more. They, on 2nd and 1, don't screw around and give Pacheco the ball for a 3-yard run for a first down, get the chains moving again. Then the dime of the game, the absolute just magic that is Mahomes to Kelsey, that we haven't seen maybe as much this year as we're used to quite right now. But I mean, this pass was teleported into the hands of Travis Kelsey. I have no idea how this works. I have no idea how Pat saw it, how Kelsey knew it. They've obviously practiced it a billion times in their life. But real quick before I continue on the engage physically talk, how insane was that play, and how many times have you watched it since they threw it?
I definitely watched it at least 25, 30 times. It's nice that I've seen it looped a couple of times, just, neat little, tight little 5-6 second clip. It was great to see at this stage of this season, because it's a reminder that it exists. And it's a thing that can be recaptured and rebottled and unleashed
at any moment
when the time is right. And the fact that it happened against the Raiders is obviously, delicious, because that's when the Chiefs get right. And true to form, I tweeted during the game, what's been really frustrating in some ways about this season is the old Chiefs are still there. They're still lurking. They have had drives and halves and maybe one complete game, against the Bears where they pulled everybody in the third quarter, where you saw the 2022 Chiefs, which had almost the exact same personnel and were the best offense in the league by far. And this throw as part of this drive was when I was like, okay, like I need to keep seeing it because I've seen it a number of times this year, and then they go and get shut out in the second half. But like this play, this drive, I was thinking we're back.
Yep. And this kind of just to sidetrack for a second, kind of reminds me of the meme that you and I have discussed with can't wait to watch my favorite team. I'm going to kill myself. Oh, good, we won with the Chiefs. That has been, a meme throughout the kingdom for a while and other sports teams. But the reason that I think of that meme right now is because if you don't have that hope, if you don't see that spark of dominant Chiefs, then like it just doesn't matter as much. It just doesn't, you don't feel as agonized when they don't pull it out because you don't expect it. You don't, the Bears aren't sitting there thinking that they're going to put up 31 on everybody or whatever. No. And, so like because of that high expectation and the fact that they are able to pull it out sometimes, then you get geared up to, you need it. You need to see it all the time. So just, I just, the perspective of Chiefs fans is often misunderstood because they think that life's so easy outside the kingdom. They think that every time we watch games, we just kick our feet back up. And if the Chiefs don't convert, we go, oh, it's fine. We've got Mahomes. Like everything will work out. Like I get it. I get from the outside looking at this team. That's probably what everyone else thinks. That's probably anytime the Chiefs blow a lead or they blow a first down or whatever, everyone's just like, well, they're gonna get it, it's fine. I wouldn't be worried if I were a Chiefs fan, but like for us it's agony. So just anyways, the teleportation into Travis Kelce's hands for 27 yards, and then the next play they get a little tricky, which we haven't really seen a ton of out of the Chiefs.
No,
I feel like a lot in the late Alex Smith / early Mahomes days, the Chiefs were as tricky as any offense around. They would throw all kinds of shit at the kitchen sink. And this time they did a little double reverse that ends up with a pitch back to Mahomes, the double reverse pitch back, which works a lot. I mean, every time I see, if you just do the standard flea flicker where you just run it up the middle with the running back, he tosses it back to the quarterback. I feel like that receiver is open like 60% of the time on a deep ball. But if you start to get sideways motion involved and then you get a pitch back to a quarterback, I swear to God, it's like 100% completion. Like defenses just lose those guys. It's
that's assuming that you don't fuck up the
pitches, which almost happened here. Pat had to get a little hop in his step to get that pitch back, but then found Kelce down the sideline pretty wide open for another 23 yards. So that was immediately 50 yards in 2 plays to Travis Kelce. That really gets your juices going, really gets the feelings of the old Chiefs coming back. And then after a short Pacheco run, because this is engaged physically on this drive, and he was converting and he was, fingerprints were all over this drive. And then Justin Watson was basically left alone on a little scramble drill in the end zone that Mahomes found him on. And that was the third down conversion there. So I nominated this drive for engaged physically because it highlighted also who should be moving forward the 3 focal points of the Chiefs offense, which is Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce. They're not necessarily the Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce trio, but they're a damn good trio on their own right and totally able to carry the load for an offense that has the backing of an elite defense. You don't need 3 superstars out there if you're also able to stop the other team. The reason that the 18 Chiefs needed Hunt, Hill, and Kelce was because they weren't stopping shit. And so every time they had the ball, they needed to score. So I do think that the Chiefs kind of woke up to this idea that like, all right, if we feature Pacheco more, if we feature Rashee Rice more, and we remember that Travis Kelce exists, we're going to be okay on offense. And they engaged physically and tied this game at 14 before half.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll add to engaging physically is when I watch Isaiah Pacheco run, I believe strongly, and there have been many debates in the analytics community about this, and there's no analytical support for the idea that like, if the offense is creating body blows, like that's going to win you games in the fourth quarter. Like you're wearing teams down because you're playing physical and you run the ball, and that means you win more games. There's no analytical proof that is true. When I watch Isaiah Pacheco run, I believe that it's true. There's no evidence to support it. I believe that it's true because I believe that players do not want to tackle Isaiah Pacheco
Sure.
because he is engaging extremely physically. Let's talk about finish strong.
Yeah. Finish strong. So you'll note that in our recap, it is halftime of the game, tied at 14.
Okay,
and
sure.
We are at the finish strong section. So that, my friends, is a great sign because the Chiefs would miraculously finish strong in this one. They scored 17 second half points, bucking a really, really concerning trend lately of not finishing games strong. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. The 0 points in 3 straight second halves. Mahomes, in his first 102 starts, had 2 second halves of 0 points in his career, and then followed that up with 3 in a row. And I mean, it's not just Mahomes, obviously, but like that shows that stretch was so outlier. That was such a non-Chiefs, non-Mahomes stretch of football by the offense that you just kind of figured, like, all right, things are bad right now, but like they're not going to continue to be bad. They know what they're doing. We've got faith in them. So they did put up those 17 second half points and a 10-play, 75-yard touchdown drive to open the second half, set the tone. And the drive was once again, that coming out of half, just like the one going into half that scored a touchdown, orchestrated entirely by Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce. So, I mean, finishing strong, remembering who your guys are, continuing to go to them. For good measure, 2 drives later, after that opening second half touchdown, Rashee Rice took a 3rd and 6 slant going right to left and just decided to turn on the afterburners and house it from the Vegas 39, race down the left sideline. Really, really nice cut by him towards the end of that play to get back in towards the middle of the field for the touchdown, making a comfortable second half lead. It was now 11 points. And more importantly, the Chiefs were back in a big way.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see it, preferably this week against the Packers, and then the week after that against the Bills. And I'd like to see us continue to score points in the second half. But
sure,
I am pretty convinced that, and again, this is the Raiders. The Chiefs had that stretch in 2021 where they were absolutely ass on offense for like half the season in the middle of the year, except for the 2 times we played the Raiders in that stretch.
And both times we played, and looked amazing.
Both times we played the Raiders in that stretch, it's like, all right, we fixed the problems, and then we came out. I will say, in our defense, and especially since we didn't preview this game, but the Raiders actually are not bad defensively this year. Like, you would be absolutely stunned to learn that the Raiders are currently 23rd in defense, defensive DVOA. But before this game, they were actually 17th. So the Chiefs faced an average defense and laid the wood on them, and scoring 17 second half points. I mean, it felt great. After 3 straight second half shutouts, felt extremely good.
It did. And so, of course, as everyone following along at home knows, the S in the Chiefs system stands for separate entirely. After the first 3 Vegas drives of the game produced 14 points and a missed field goal, so 3 scoring opportunities, the Chiefs woke up and remembered that they are pretty damn good. They're an elite NFL unit themselves. They held the Raiders to 3 points over their final 7 drives of the game, including back-to-back 4th down stops on the final 2 drives to end the game. The big one was a 4th and 1 stop of Josh Jacobs for -2 yards by Drew Tranquill and Chris Jones, among others. The swarm hit him for sure on that 4th down stop. That gave the Chiefs the ball up 11 with 6:30 to go. And to ice it, they brought in the game's greatest closer right now, the game's most iciest veined kicker that you've ever seen. And of course, that's Harrison Butker. After he continued his perfect season with a 32-yarder, the defense once again had one more crack at it and got a 3rd down, big 3rd down stack by George Karlaftis, and then a 4th and 21 stop at the 2-minute warning, kneeled the game out, and that was a wrap. Chief system.
I should add, we have a mailbag question of sorts from our guy, Peter Yadrich, Peter Weigall. Question for the pod: was there a funnier moment in the game than Jacoby Myers double clutching the full field lateral on 4th and 21 because of what happened when he did it last year? This was super funny to me because, extremely astute. And I got this question like as it happened live, and we all remember the play. He was a New England Patriot, and he attempted a full field lateral, and it literally cost the Patriots a game that I think it was a tie game, right? Like it was going to overtime. Like they literally lost a game that they had no ability to lose, but for the fact that he launched this absurd full field lateral and the Raiders ran it back for a touchdown. I had, even though that was one of the funniest plays I've ever seen, completely forgot about that. And Peter, being the ball knower that he is, fired this question off to me like immediately after the play happened. It was extremely funny. I mean, like I didn't even think about it, but he was seeing ghosts out there. He's like, look, I understand that we're down 17, you know, like, but we can't.
I ain't doing it.
I can't. Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Can't put that highlight reel on my career list twice. I mean, Jacoby Myers was definitely, you know, you don't normally think of business decisions like that, but that was a business decision on that lateral attempt where he was like, nah.
The only thing that could have made it funnier is if Josh McDaniels had somehow been involved again, he was with the game last year. But that's the Chiefs system.
That is the Chiefs system.
We got it done. Let's go to our awards. We've got our 5-star men who through their players saying I'm a 5-star man. We've got our trash men who are eating garbage all over the field. We have our wild cards who are capable of anything. I will kick us off with a 5-star man, his first ever 5-star man. That's the rookie wide receiver 1, Rashee Rice. 10 targets, 8 catches, 107 yards, and the touchdown. Obviously, the highlight there, really 2 highlights in this game, but a steady performance, obviously career highs in receptions and receiving yards in this game. Taking the crossing route to the house with the, whatever it was, 34 yards after the catch on a 38-yard touchdown drive was amazing and absolutely massive. He did give credit to Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
There you go.
Throwing the block on that play, which, that was MVS's play of the game there. But Rashee did a lot of the work on that one. I mean, whenever you have a guy taking a crossing route to the house, that's a lot of work done by the receiver there. And then he mossed a guy on the sideline later in the game for a first down that, like, I mean, if he's going to be doing that, just give him the ball 15 times a game. I mean, like 10 targets was awesome. 170 yards was awesome. Touchdown was great. Give him more touches.
Do it more. Mm-hmm. They used to target Tyreek 17, 18 times a game. Do that.
Yeah. If he's going to show off those ball skills, give that man the ball. 5-star man, big time.
I love it. So my 5-star man is going to go to a guy that got a lot of love in that recap. Of course, that's Isaiah Pacheco. 20 total touches in the pass and run game, 89 total yards, 2 hard-fought touchdowns. He was physical. He was energetic. He's everything we've come to expect when he's playing his best, which is more than his box score contribution, as you mentioned earlier, with the not wanting to hit him and stuff. You know, I don't think that that's probably the case for most guys, but I do think there are players and guys. I mean, I think of Derrick Henry first, of course, and Pop's gotten a lot of comparisons to Derrick Henry, which is funny because he feels half as big as Derrick Henry. Now, he's a big kid himself, Pacheco is, but like the way that he hits people, when people watch him run, they're like, that reminds me of the most gigantic freak athlete running back I've ever seen, which is hilarious and a testament to how hard Pacheco plays. Looked great in this game, pulled piles across yardage and stuff. I mean, when he's doing his thing, it's a weapon. It's a bona fide, legitimate weapon. We've seen a lot of weapons at the running back position as our fortunate time as Kansas City Chiefs fans. They've all kind of had some different flavors to them. And I mean, I think, the 6 guys that you think of are Okoye and Priest and Jamal and Larry and Kareem and maybe now Pacheco. Maybe he enters that stratosphere of like dominant, you can just rely on the guy. You can give him the ball and know that he's going to make a play or make a positive impact on the game. And he's not, maybe quite there yet. He's a 7th round pick. I mean, hell, Priest was undrafted. So I'm not saying that the draft pedigree has everything to do with it, but like there's a level of just like superstardom to Pacheco that I think we can start to see blooming right now. And I really hope they continue to trust him, especially in those short yardage situations. I don't know why you would want to throw the ball. I know you've got 15 back there, but like let Pop eat.
Let Pop eat. Trashmen. These are the honorary Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sky Moore Trashmen Awards. But I will be awarding mine to neither of those players. I will be awarding my Trashman Award to the aforementioned Marquez Valdez-Scantling. 1 target, 1 catch for -1 yards. I mean, he still played 30-plus snaps in this game. So he was out there. He wasn't getting open or wasn't, if he was open, receiving the trust of his quarterback, which is completely understandable. Given how he played against Philadelphia, dropping the game-winning touchdown that was in his hands.
I mean, how he's played all year. Let's be honest.
Sure.
That was not the Philly play would not have been gut-wrenching if it was his first drop. If it was Kelsey that dropped that ball, I'd be like, damn, we missed one. But anyway.
No, just par for the course. Wasn't getting open. So, when you don't get open and you don't earn targets, you can't drop the ball. So I guess that was the positive there, but it was not a positive performance for MVS. In fact, it was a very Trashman-worthy performance. Who you got?
So for my honorary Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sky Moore Trashman Award, I am sticking with what works. I am picking Clyde Edwards-Helaire. When we pick these Trashman Awards, we think about people who were involved with the game but didn't do anything, or people who screwed up one really big thing. That's usually the 2 profiles of somebody that gets the trash.
Right.
And often Clyde is both. Often he doesn't do anything, and what he does do is so infuriating and bad and bad for the team.
That's a great way to describe it.
It is. And
he has a limited role, and he's bad.
And he's bad at his limited role. This time, he was the, I think, second lowest snap count of any offensive player in the game. He had 3 touches. He had a 4th that didn't count that went for 0 yards. And his 3 touches that did count went for 0 yards, 0 yards, and 5 yards. And actually, I should reverse those orders because his first touch did go for 5 yards. His first touch was at the 6-yard line. You mentioned it in the recap. He got down to the 1 and then got stuffed on the next play, and they gave it to Pacheco. And of course, he walked right in the end zone. So, that was just a very classic Clyde play. And then later on in the game, 0 yards. He doesn't contribute much, and he has high potential for just a screw up or a fumble or just not keeping his head on a swivel. So picking Clyde here, and probably will not be the last time.
No, probably not. I mean, there's a reason why it's the honorary CEH Trashman Award.
Correct.
He will probably be earning a few more of those. Let's turn to our wild cards, who are capable of anything. My wild card in this game is Justin Watson, and this is one of the most wild card performances we've had in a while. 3 targets, 1 catch, 3 yards, 1 touchdown. And to cap it all off, after he caught that touchdown, he got laid out, got back up, catches the touchdown, and then immediately gets in the guy's face. And he earns a 15-yard penalty for taunting. So, in effect, we have a guy who had 1 catch. He essentially contributed -12 net yards with the penalty, but he scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
That is a wild card performance from Justin Watson. He obviously is not wide receiver 1 material, but he's better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He has his uses, and he had he had a good catch a couple weeks ago against the Dolphins that didn't end up counting. Couldn't quite control the ball, but it was a great effort from him. He's been really close to making a couple of big plays. The play that he got hurt on, obviously earlier in the year, he was really close to making a big play on that as well, and then ends up getting injured. He's fine. I don't need to not see Justin Watson on my TV screen in the way that I need to not see MVS on my TV.
Yeah.
He's got strong energy. And, despite the 15 yards on the kickoff, Travis Kelce on New Heights said that he loved it. He's like, that's the kind of thing where, you see a guy get laid out and then score a touchdown, you want him to go get in the guy's face. He did push back a little bit where he was like, you have to be smart about it. But
sure. Okay, Travis.
It's not right, exactly. It's not wiping out a touchdown, right? It's on the kickoff. And
it's not a defensive penalty that keeps a drive going or whatever. It's not a Chris Jones penalty. I mean, it's certainly the best penalty you can have is a celebration penalty after a touchdown. That's the least impactful on a kickoff. Doesn't really usually matter. I completely agree with you.
Yep. And that was at the end of the quarter too. So it's like there's
Yes.
24 seconds left in the half. So like
Yeah.
in the end at the end of the day, it didn't end up costing the Chiefs at all. But
No.
it was a real wild card move to get the guy's face.
It was. He had the lighter out. He was gonna blow gasoline and do all that crazy
Sure,
stuff.
he cut the brakes.
He cut the brakes. It's funny that his whole stat line there, other than 2 targets that were not caught, you know, the 1 catch, the 3 yards, the 1 touchdown, the 15-yard penalty, that was all one play. Just a funny, you know, Justin Watson. I do think that he would be a little bit more well received if there were other contributing members of the wide receiver room.
Sure,
you know,
totally.
Like if there were guys out there,
if he
doing
wasn't
stuff,
the de facto wide receiver 1 for half the season,
yes, he would be like the mascot, like the token wide
right.
receiver that gets
He'd
the deep
like
ball every now
Gary
and then.
Dieter,
Yes,
but
like actually can play NFL football, right?
Sure.
Yeah, but yes, he has part of the unfortunate player profile of like when this year started, they were like, "Fuck yeah, Justin Watson." Like we're gonna run him every play and we're gonna throw it to him constantly. He's gonna lead the team in targets like 4 times this year or whatever. Like that's not him. It's never been him. It'll never be him. But if you've got other guys, if you've got Kelsey and Rasheed and God willing, maybe Sky Moore one day actually out there doing stuff, now Justin Watson becomes like a fun weapon that you can take the top off of defense. Anyway, that's my Justin Watson take there. I will go for my wild card with Boys to Men's own Wanya Morris. And that's because he had to step in real quick when Donovan Smith got nicked up in this game and took 2 snaps and had 2 pancakes, just absolute leveled guys. And then Donovan Smith was ready to come back in. Wanya did get some special teams action in this game too, but is a guy that I think maybe this wild card is more about his role in the team than it is this particular game performance. Like, sure, 2 snaps and 2 elite, physical, dominating types of performances. That's great. That's very wild card. But like, this guy could also end up being the left tackle of the future. Like, he could end up being an anchor for a team that goes to Super Bowls. And like, you know, he's getting his feet wet now. He doesn't have to be the starting tackle. He's learning behind a veteran in Donovan Smith that definitely knows what he's doing. Just able to kind of do the Mahomes route, or what's been emulated by a lot of players these days, which is you don't have to get thrown into the fire right away. You can kind of hit the ground and look around and take a breath before you actually have to be like starting a Super Bowl in your rookie or whatever. So I do think that Wanya Morris has a bright future. He seems like a big physically gifted kid. Excited for him. Very wild card performance here for Wanya.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Donovan Smith is on a 1-year contract, so
exactly. And the writing's on the wall.
For him to get out there and be physical a couple plays in a row. I mean, Donovan Smith has been fine for the Chiefs. I saw a stat today that he's near the top of the league in pressures, but you know who's ahead of him is Orlando Brown Jr., who costs significantly more money. So Donovan Smith is at least, he's no worse than Orlando, and we're paying them a fraction of the cost.
Net positive. So,
definitely big time net positive. But I mean, like Morris has, if he's able to get out there and play and potentially be the starter down the road, and the Chiefs are able to retain, Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, that is an insanely physical offensive line that just would be hilarious to watch. It was great to see him out there laying dudes out. So that's going to be a wrap on the Chiefs 31-17 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's turn to the game this weekend. Chiefs are traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Does this game do anything for you? The whole Lambeau thing, the frozen tundra, the Chris Berman thing, the Brett Favre thing, the Aaron Rodgers thing. I mean, it's Jordan Love. It's a middling Packers team. It's an NFC opponent. It is an important game for the Chiefs in the sense that, they're essentially tied with the Ravens. The Ravens are a game up in the win column, but they still have to go through their bye week, and the Chiefs have a tiebreaker on them. So if the Chiefs win out, they get the 1 seed. There's still that draw, but does this game do anything for you? Get you going at all?
Not really. I mean, it's Sunday Night Football, which is always kind of interesting and fun when, you've got the Chiefs when everyone's watching them. That has kind of opened the Chiefs up, especially post Super Bowl 57, for some criticism that otherwise the Chiefs would not receive if they were playing at noon or at 3, which is that everyone's watching. And anytime the Chiefs do anything cool at all, it's someone's fault. It's the ref's fault. They blew a call.
This is why it's so stressful to be a Chiefs fan.
Yes.
We're under the microscope all the time.
Absolutely we are. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a Chiefs player under that same microscope and to have all that scrutiny and all that, stuff going on. Haven't mentioned Taylor yet. Shout out Taylor Swift. Just had to make sure we got her name in there once for advertising purposes.
Sure. Of
course. The Packers, they're an interesting franchise to me as a Chiefs fan because they don't really cross paths with the Chiefs too often.
No.
But when they do, it's usually been pretty notable in my life and in the Chiefs' lives. I mean, obviously Super Bowl I is Chiefs Packers. So you set the foundation there. And then I always think of the Week 6 game in 2003 where the Chiefs scored in overtime to remain undefeated at Lambeau.
We talked about it over the summer.
I talk about it all the time. It's a core memory for me as a Chiefs fan. And then, I loved Aaron Rodgers early on in his career. He was probably my favorite non-Chief for like 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
Just, until he basically started talking. And then the moment someone put a microphone in front of his face and he wasn't this Clint Eastwood, no talk gunslinger, then I was like, oh, actually this dude sucks. And then,
he's not good.
Even though he sucks, we never got to play him. The Chiefs never got to play.
Mahomes never got to play. We had the loss to him in 2019 when Mahomes was injured.
Correct. And then
in a game where we almost beat the Packers.
The Chiefs were feisty in that game. Lost by 7.
Aaron Rodgers was crazy in that game. He made some insane throws in that game. He
did.
Great football player, shitty person.
So that's just
what he has to say.
No. So that's the kind of stuff I start to think about when it's Chiefs v Packers. And then I think back to last year, which was no Aaron Rodgers. Again, he was hurt and Jordan Love played that game. And it was so excruciating for both sides to get anything done. The Chiefs won that game. I think I'm not looking at it, but 13-7, something like that. Really.
Yeah, that's right. And it was Jordan Love's first start.
It was. And Spags, of course, doing what he does best, threw the kitchen sink at him. He was blitzing him all the time. He was showing him fake stuff. He was treating Jordan Love the way you would treat a rookie quarterback in his first start, and it worked. And he shook him. That's not the Jordan Love that we're going to see in this game. I don't know if Jordan Love's any good, but I know that he's better than that performance. And I also don't know if the Chiefs have more than 13 points in them because we can't know that at this point anymore. But I'm pretty sure they do. So I'm expecting a little bit more fireworks than the last time we played.
It's an interesting game because the Packers, they're sort of like the NFC Broncos a little bit right now, where they're on a little bit of a hot streak. So they have won 3 of their last 4 to improve from 2-5 to 5-6. They've turned it around. That 5-6 record somehow has them at 50% chance to make the playoffs.
Sure, man. NFC. I love it.
They're only a game out, basically the 7th seed right now. So they definitely could get back in it. This is a team that, is kind of righted the ship a little bit. I hate to make the comparison to the Broncos because really all the Broncos have done is get insane turnover luck and, parlay that into a 5-game winning streak, whatever. It's fine. But let's talk about when the Chiefs have the ball here. The Chiefs somehow, after a good offensive performance against at least an average defense in the Raiders. One of the best Raiders defenses of the last decade, let's be honest, this season.
Yes.
And, Max Crosby was out there despite being doubtful. It's fine. It's not a total doormat of a defense. Chiefs put up a good offensive performance. They are somehow 5th in offensive DVOA in this year, 2023, in the year where they got shut out in the second half of 3 straight consecutive games. Chiefs are 5th on offensive DVOA. Packers are 18th on defense. This is a matchup that on paper favors the Chiefs and is exploitable.
Yeah, it is. It's funny that, with the DVOA performances of the Chiefs this year, most matchups are going to end up looking pretty positive for the Chiefs. They've righted the ship on offense. They have a dominant defense. So when I look at a game like this, they're going to have to the Chiefs are going to have to beat themselves if they're going to lose this game. And we've said that a lot in the past, but sometimes, game recognized game, and these other teams are decent and can go in there and play their own game and beat the Chiefs. This is not one of those times. If
No.
both teams play their own game, the Chiefs win this game by 10 to 14 points. That's how both these teams are constructed right now. And, it's a road game and crazy shit happens, but it's a nice matchup. I do think that when the Chiefs have the ball, they should be able to move on the Packers. They certainly look like they're kind of getting their swagger back. But again, like or in 2021, when the Raiders were the lighthouse in the middle of an ocean of suck, maybe that's the case. And maybe the Chiefs are going to go out and we're going to be frustrated and turn this game off in the second quarter as well. But we'll see how it goes.
This is just a quick observation before we move to the defensive side of the ball, but I wonder if this game has special significance to Patrick Mahomes at all, just because, we know that he enjoyed watching Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers growing up, which is a weird thing to say since, Aaron Rodgers has been, I was in college when Aaron Rodgers became the starter in Green Bay and Pat was 10 or whatever.
Pat
whatever
grew
he
up
was.
on him.
Sure, he grew up watching Aaron Rodgers play. And, Lambeau is an iconic venue. This will be his first trip to Lambeau, right? So I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of extra pep in his step. And obviously, playing on Sunday Night Football, we know he gets up for games like that. I think we could see a vintage Patrick Mahomes performance. He looked great on Sunday, and let's keep that rolling. When the Packers have the ball, they are 16th on offense. So 16th on offense, 18th on defense. Chiefs are 5th on offense and 8th on defense. So if I had asked you which unit for the Chiefs is ranked better in DVOA, there's no way that you would have said the offense, right?
No,
but
certainly not.
Somehow the offense is 5th, the defense is 8th. They're both very good. We talked a little bit about Jordan Love. He's been playing his best ball lately, but he's still a guy that has one of the highest rates of uncatchable balls in the NFL. He's still a guy that has very limited experience as a starter. And obviously, guys that are sitting on the bench, when Patrick Mahomes was sitting behind Alex Smith, when Jordan Love was sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for years, which, they did with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and then Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers, you're learning something. There definitely is some level of improvement being in an NFL quarterback room, getting NFL coaching, and, taking even second team and scout team reps. There's something to be said for that. But this is still a guy that, despite his age, he's not a guy that has taken a ton of NFL reps. From a number of passes thrown in the NFL standpoint, and not a number of years present on an NFL roster standpoint, he's like a rookie. And we know what Steve Spagnuolo does to rookie quarterbacks. And we saw what he did to Jordan Love a couple years ago when Love was forced into action. The Green Bay offense could not really do anything. And that was back when they had Devontae Adams. So
right. And the Chiefs had a worse defense. It's, definitely things are trending in the right direction for the Chiefs to be able to slow down the Packers when they have the ball. It's funny. I just find this concept of being more confident about the Chiefs defense than the offense to just be so weird. And it's been that way now for 6, 7, 8 weeks, basically since week 2, when I was like, oh, that first week performance was not an aberration. This Chiefs defense is legit. And, that's kind of how I'm feeling in this game. I'm feeling that if I have to give the ball to one of these units to win the game, I trust the defense. I trust that the defense are going to go out there and make the plays when they need to and shut down the Packers. I don't know if, how this Chiefs offense is gelling right now. I hope it's moving in the right direction. And if they went out and put up 38 points on the Packers, I'm going to be the least shocked person around. That's not crazy, but just the feeling as a fan that I get of thinking about the Chiefs defense versus offense, I'm still not used to it.
It's funny because Andy Reid was asked about Jordan Love at the owners' meetings earlier this year, and he didn't remember playing Jordan Love. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was gone; he was out of the picture, and so this was a news item. We all remember it. The Aaron Rodgers will he, won't he? He's leaving Green Bay. Jordan Love is taking over as the starter thing was a news item for the entire offseason. And Andy Reid forgot and had to be reminded about playing Jordan Love in 2021 when he was asked about it. And I saw some Packers fans that were heated about this.
Sure,
like,
of course.
Like you're expecting a 64-year-old man or whatever he is now to remember playing one quarterback that he played one time 2 years ago.
Who sucks?
The Chiefs won 13-7, and it wasn't a good game. Like, give me a break. And again, like, and he's an offensive coach too. So like,
he wasn't worried about Jordan Love.
Yeah, right. He wasn't game planning for Jordan Love.
Spags remembers him.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, Steve, you do your thing. I'm coaching the offense.
Let me know when I get the ball back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know if that adds a little bit of juice to this game at all. I don't know if Jordan Love is aware of this slight. Like if we're gonna see him, doing like the phone gesture or whatever he wants to do, some kind of little celebration on the sidelines. Right. Exactly. No. Probably not, hopefully not, but maybe adds a little bit of extra juice to this game. We'll see what happens on Sunday night, but I'm expecting it to remain sunny. Chiefs Kingdom.